welcome. This is your Saturday News. I'm your host, Keith Lander, coming to you out of the Tabernacle Baptist Church, Dayton, Ohio. And today's topic is economic development. I have a very special guest, Stacy Vincent Taylor, who is the Regional Director for the American Federation of County, State, Municipal Employees, and also she serves on the Executive Committee of the Dayton chapter of the NAACP. And she wears a whole bunch of hats. She's an attorney, and she's a vast knowledgeable person about the local economic scene, local political scene, local civil rights scene. So, Stacy, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Now, just to get into this thing, I hear people say that we see development in one part of town and very lack of development in other parts of town. And what I'm referring to, sometimes people say, oh, look at what's going on. So let's say downtown Dayton as opposed to West Dayton and east side of Dayton. Can you explain how that process in economic development, how that works so people can understand that when these development happen, it don't happen overnight?
So, absolutely. It is frustrating. First, let me say, it's very frustrating for people to see development in an area that's not their area. And so when I was looking into this, one of the areas that I looked at was Brown Street. And what I found out that Brown Street was about 17 years in the making from the idea, the thought process, to the development stage, to the building, and to what we see now. And so a lot of times we want development to occur, but it does happen in stages and in levels. And so when we think about economic development, we have to think about the fact that the city doesn't just build something. They will leverage funds, meaning put so much money on the table, and then they have to have partners. So with Brown Street, the partners were the University of Dayton and obviously Miami Valley Hospital. In other areas, West Dayton, for instance, Sugar Creek is a partner. So Sugar Creek wants to develop, Sugar Creek wants to do something, then the city will work with Sugar Creek to leverage the funds, put some money on the table. The investors will then put more money on the table so that a business can be developed. It's not necessarily the city coming up with ideas of how to develop an area. And so the difference with Brown Street or downtown Dayton, developers come in and they want to develop that land. And so the question would be, are there developers coming in to develop land in East and West Dayton? And then what role is the city playing in reaching out to those developers or people who are looking to build?
So actually people are coming into town with capital, with a plan, idea, and they present it to the city, and there's a partnership that takes place. Is that right?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, that's exactly how that works. But even with local businesses, if a local business or a small business wanted to approach the city, the Economic Development Department works with small local businesses. So a minority-owned business that wanted to open up in the city of Dayton approaches the city of Dayton, ask if there are any funds available for new businesses, small businesses, and then the city could work with them to find a location, to determine what funds were available and try to assist. I know a lot of the, I think the most recent development near the steam plant, the investment company, I believe, is out of New York or another larger city that has come in to develop that area. And so they're bringing in a lot of funds from other places, yes. Right.
And so I know a lot of people expect a whole lot out of the city leadership. That goes down from the mayor to the city commissioners because they're accessible and they're there for people to talk to and air out their grievances. But the expectations coming from the citizens to the city leadership, there should be some expectations coming from the citizens also. Because if I look at, let's take West Dayton, and shouldn't the citizens also respect the community and participate in the community when it comes to economic by supporting, businesses in that community?
I think that you're absolutely right. We expect a lot from the city officials, whether it's the mayor, the city manager, or the city commissioners, and obviously we should. They have chosen to take on those roles as our elected officials. And so making sure that, number one, the information is out there. When I wanted to know about grocery stores in West Dayton, the question that I posed to the city manager was, what's going on? People are asking about a grocery store. When we think of economic development in the city, we think of a grocery store. And so what is happening? What I learned is that the city has tried to court a number of grocery stores for West Dayton, and those grocery stores at this point, or even before, were not willing to come. And so I think we should expect that the city officials to try and facilitate economic development. But on the flip side, I think what we have going on in Dayton, and specifically West Dayton, with our entrepreneurs, our entrepreneur market, our young professionals, is that we're starting to see that we're building our businesses from the inside out. And that is exactly what we need to do to be accountable. One of the things that I learned about economic development is, I think I said this, is that it happens in layers. And so the beautification process, one of the things that we saw or we see around the VA Center is the beautification and the realigning of the infrastructure there to make it more appealable or appealing to businesses to come in. Same thing with Sugar Creek, and if you notice the lights on the corner of Hoover and Gettysburg. Again, Sugar Creek worked with the city. Sugar Creek put those lights in because if you have a beautiful city, if you have a clean city, then it is more likely that businesses, when they come in, will want to come to your area. So I commend the young people. Chaz is one who did the weeks of 16 weeks, 15, 16 weeks of cleanup in West Dayton. That is the beginning of laying the foundation for economic growth in our city.
Yeah, you're right. And I may take some flack for saying this, but I'm going to say it. Sometimes, and we missed the opportunity. And what I mean by that is when Premier had closed Good Sam, and Premier came up with this plan to revitalize that piece of property, also put seed money on the table and told people, if you come up with a proposal, we'll entertain that. They also, in turn, was going to revitalize the neighborhood. They're going to do neighborhood improvements. And so what I'm saying is, do we miss the opportunity sometime by just complaining and airing grievances instead of getting into a room and getting proposals together so that we can get a piece of that pie, that money that's being set aside?
We do. And I believe that our community was 100% correct in being angry and frustrated that a hospital that was needed was being closed. And so airing our grievances and airing our frustration, that is, number one, natural, but number two, necessary. People need to know that we care about what is in our community. And we protested, and we went to the city commission, and we did conference calls with the premier executives. Once it was determined that they were leaving, though, and that decision was done, then we did miss the opportunity, if there was money on the table, and there was money on the table, not if, to try and figure out how we position ourselves. I hear about gentrification. If development is coming, and we know that development is coming, then as a community, we have to start positioning ourselves to participate. And so while we want to stop gentrification, absolutely, we don't want other people moving into our neighborhoods, taking our property or our assets. What we do want is to position ourselves, and again, I go back to the entrepreneurs market, because we have positioned ourselves in a developing area that was started. I mean, you think about Wright Dunbar. Wright Dunbar, the vision and the idea was started quite some time ago, and it is now just beginning to develop because people are looking and people are now investing, and we are taking the ideas from before. And so looking at what we don't like and then capitalizing on that, absolutely being upset about it, but how do we move forward in it? With what I believe the ability or the resource that we have in that area where Good Sam is, I believe there is opportunity for growth and development. We just need to position ourselves for that.
Right, I agree. Now, when I was younger, we used to have neighborhood stores, and the people who ran the neighborhood stores, we knew each other. They looked like us. They lived in the community. And oftentimes now, things have changed. We have people who run the neighborhood stores who don't look like me. We have people who run our neighborhood stores that don't live in our community. Sometimes we even have people run the neighborhood stores that don't even support the surrounding community. The only thing they do is go in and reap the benefits from selling the products. So what happened? What happened to all the minority-owned mom and pop stores that we used to see, like a Wren's, and when I was a kid, it was a Miss Ruth store. And what happened to that? Thrifty Drugs that used to be around. Did nobody pick up the mantle and say, we're going to continue this tradition of minority ownership?
So I think that question is kind of complicated. I think having access to, I'm good for examples. The Salem Mall. We had a thriving mall, but then the Dayton Mall blew up, and so we wanted to go to the Dayton Mall because the Dayton Mall had more stores or had more things that we wanted, and so we started going to the Dayton Mall, and then the Salem Mall began to suffer. And so I think you see that with a lot of mom and pop stores and businesses as the larger stores come into not even the neighborhood, but are close to the neighborhood where we can start to get to those locations, then we start to patronize them more. Their prices may be a little bit cheaper, and their inventory may be a little bit greater, but we have to make a decision that we are going to support our small businesses in our community so that their inventory can grow, so that that they begin to offer more of a diverse product or more of what it is that we're looking for. If we don't support our businesses and try to position them to compete, then they do go out of business.
Now this is just a suggestion. Back when I was a young man, I played Little League Baseball, and the sponsors of the Little League Baseball team all was local businesses or fraternities or sororities. And so I'm gonna suggest, I see the little kids on the corner with their football helmets, trying to get $1 or $2 so they can get to the next tournament. I would suggest that those people who run those football, baseball, whichever, to go to these local businesses and say, you're in our neighborhood, we need your support, we need you to sponsor one of these teams, and see what kind of reaction that you get. And if they say no, let me know. I'll have you on the show. We'll expose them and run them out of town. But that's a different subject. Let me change gears for 1 minute here. I'm going to change gears because you are part of the City of Dayton Police Reform you're the co-chair of the Training Commission. Can you give us an update on what's happening with your reform group?
So our reform group, we're working on de-escalation, implicit bias, and cultural competency. And so we started off simply trying to understand what training the City of Dayton provides to recruits in the academy. So we've kind of had to dive deep into the curriculum and figure out what it is that is being offered and what it is that we believe we need to enhance. So we started with de-escalation. What we learned is that the community's idea of de-escalation and what is practiced in most police forces are different. And so we had to start out with clarifying terminology, making sure that we're on the same page. It would seem that we would be, but as you started to dive in, or as we started to dive in, what we learned is that we were not always on the same page. And so we started there, had some experts come in, Dr. Engel, who is one of the experts in the nation, and she was also the person who came in and worked with the University of Cincinnati police force to develop procedures and things to help with working with a diverse community. And so we've done that. We've come up with some recommendations about de-escalation, and how to not just train on de-escalation, but to have an ongoing process of checks and balances on de-escalation. Very, very important, because there is not a lot of training out there. You're kind of trying to figure out what in your community works best. And so we have 3 police officers on our committee, and it is definitely working to have those police officers on the committee, because it helps give us true insight as to how we work through some of those things. So at our meeting tomorrow, we meet at 2:30 tomorrow. We will be looking to vote on some recommendations about strengthening the de-escalation policies, about oversight, about ongoing training. We believe things like the de-escalation, you can't just have a one-time training in the academy and expect officers to be fluent in what they should do. We're looking at how you de-escalate someone with a weapon and without a weapon. Is that the same? And then where do you branch off to, I need to use more force? We're also looking at the definition of use of force. And so, again, it's a lot to dive into, but we believe that we will be bringing forth some recommendations this week that will, and I said this to the officers, that we need them to help us help them to figure out how to interact better with the community. And so I believe that we are at a point where we, when it comes to de-escalation, are ready to move forward there.
Yeah, and I appreciate the leadership from the mayor to the city commission and all those who had a hand in putting these committees together. It's much needed. We just didn't put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. Y'all going in deep. Y'all going really deep and really detailed. And hopefully when all this stuff is compiled together, it'll be beneficial not only for the police department, it'll be beneficial for the community, and we can have a better working relationship from the community and the police, because the police are doing a very good job of protecting and serving. We just got to get rid of the ones who act a fool and go beyond the policies and professionalism of the police department. So, Stacy, thank you for showing up.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate you being here, and your knowledge and expertise was much needed. And so hopefully the community who sees this can take what you said and run with it.
Awesome.
Just run with it. We put it out there, run with it. It's like planting a seed. We plant the seed, and hopefully, what grows, we'll appreciate it. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Stacy Benson Taylor once again for appearing on the show and for the information that she gave out. Hopefully it's helpful to you. The next part of the show, you know what time it is. It's the scam report. And this scam report I found on the Better Business Bureau. And what this scam is, it's an Amazon scam. And what these scammers have done, they had copied the Amazon, right? They copied the address and the number. And what they're doing is they're calling people and stating that they are from Amazon and that there are issues with either your order, with your Prime membership, or with your package that you may have ordered or may have didn't order. And what they're seeking is they're seeking out personal information. And what they're trying to get is they're trying to get either your credit card information, your login password to Amazon, or your Amazon Prime numbers, so they can just clean out your account. Amazon does not do that. If Amazon send you out anything, they don't ask for your credit card information. They don't ask for your login numbers, your ID. Amazon does not do that. Those guys, those are scammers. And that's how you can tell whether or not it's a scam or not, by the questions they ask about your personal information. Amazon does not do that, according to the Better Business Bureau. So if you get one of these calls, just hang up the phone and then just call Amazon yourself. And these guys have gotten so good that they have copied even stuff from the Better Business Bureau, making it look like the Better Business Bureau is involved, and they're not. They've copied Amazon numbers, they copy Better Business Bureau numbers. It's a scam, trust me. If you get that, I got one of those calls, and the person said, I didn't even order anything from Amazon at that time. And the person said, well, there's a problem with your Amazon account. And I said, okay. He said, well, we need your account number. I said, well, if you're calling from Amazon, you already have my account number, right? And then he went on this thing, well, we need to verify. I was like, no. I said, you're a scam. I'm reporting you to the police. And of course, he hung up then. So if you do get one of those calls from Amazon stating that there's a problem with your package delivery, or fraud on your account, or something wrong with your Prime account, or your credit card that you use to make the purchase, do not answer it. Hang up the phone. Call Amazon yourself and see whether or not it's a legitimate call from Amazon. Because, now with this coronavirus, people are ordering things off online in record numbers. These scammers know that, and they're trying to get into your account and just rob you blind. So be on the lookout and spread the word. The next story, you already know that the coronavirus is still running rampant locally and nationally. The good news is that there's some vaccines on the way. Mike DeWine, Governor Mike DeWine, has stated to the Dayton Daily News that some of the vaccines may be here by December, but they're going to be used for first responders and nurses and these type of things. And there's 10 different departments or hospitals that this vaccine will be given out to in November, hopefully November. I think that's what Governor DeWine is looking at. They don't have a place here in Dayton yet. I can give you a rundown of the local of the hospitals that will be receiving this vaccine, and they break it down into regions 1 through 8. And they're hospitals in Locust County, Cuyahoga County, Clark County, Franklin County, Stark County, Hamilton County, Athens, and Muskegum. And they're hospitals that are listed in these counties. They will receive this vaccine first, and then hopefully, it'll spread and trickle out into the general public. But help is on the way. But in the meantime, this is what you need to do to protect yourself from this coronavirus. Number 1, wear a mask. Wear a mask. If you're out in public, wear a mask. Wherever you go, wear a mask. Number 2, wash your hands. Wash your hands with soap and water. If you don't have soap and water, use some hand sanitizers. When you get done with the hand sanitizers, go home and you can do it with some soap and water. Make sure you do that, and then stay away from crowds. Stay away from crowds. You know what I mean? If you do those 3 things, most likely you won't catch this virus. That's wear the mask, wash your hands with soap and water, or if you don't have any soap and water, hand sanitizers, and stay away from large gatherings. We're trying to keep everybody safe. The governor's trying to keep everybody safe. The health directors are trying to keep everybody safe. Follow those instructions, and I think you should be all right. Nobody's immune to this stuff. Coronavirus, they don't care they don't care who you are, what you are. This virus is killing people. There's over 250,000 deaths in this country due to this coronavirus, and the experts are predicting more to come. So protect yourself, protect your family, protect your loved ones, protect your friends, and I think you'll be all right. The other issues, everybody went to the polls. Everybody voted. If your candidate won, congratulations. If they didn't win, that's the way life is. But the bottom line is that there was a lot of efforts being made to try to prevent people from voting. As we've seen out in California, the Republican Party put up fake boxes to put your ballots in. The Postal Service Postmaster General removed some mailboxes, closed down some post office, but all that stuff, the one thing that we did, we went to the poll in record numbers. And I congratulate those who went to the poll in record numbers. And according to the administrators who oversees these voting and elections, this was the safest election on date, meaning if there was any fraud, it was so minimum that it didn't matter. So the bottom line is, I want to thank the Postal Service. I want to thank those people at the Board of Elections across the country, including right here in Montgomery County, for doing an excellent job. Those poll workers who worked their polls, everybody who had a hand in getting these ballots and getting them counted and getting them accurate. I appreciate you. Hey, love the job you're doing. Those who went and voted by record numbers, appreciate you doing that also. But look, this is not the only election. We're going to have some more coming up. So we need to keep that same energy. We need to keep that and keep it rolling because your vote do count. And a matter of fact, if you look out in Arizona, the Navajo Nation, my hat goes off to the Navajo Nations. There was a lot of voter suppression going on out there on the reservation. They tried to say that the Native Americans, they didn't have an address. Most Native Americans lived on the reservation, has a post office box, and they tried to make it where you couldn't vote using that post office box. But I want to thank some folks from the Rural Utah Project, which is a grassroots organization that went in and got those people to the polls, had them vote, and I think that made a big difference. And I tell you what, if people of color, we stick together and we vote in large numbers, we can turn this thing around. We can have representatives that represent our interests. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you. Hey, voting is the American way. It's the most patriotic thing you can do. And as we've seen in this election, there's some very patriotic people in the Board of Elections to make sure that the voting is secure. The voting, there's no fraud, and if it is, they detect it and make sure they get rid of it. So my hat's off to these people. And also, I would like to say that I congratulate Cori Bush. If you don't know who Cori Bush is, she was the first elected black woman in Missouri Congress. Now, Cori Bush come on the scene when Michael Brown was gunned down in Ferguson. And she joined up with Black Lives Matter. She did a lot of protesting with Black Lives Matter. She also continued to protest when George Floyd was killed in the hands of that police officer. And Cori Brown is a grassroots civil rights fighter, fighting for all people. She ran for Congress. She won in Missouri. She becomes the first black congresswoman in Missouri. So my hat goes off to Cori Bush. What it says is that if you have the determination, you have the drive and the will to change, you can make change, and you can make change either from the streets or you can make change from the State House. You can do it both. And that's what Cori Bush is an example of. She did it both. So my congratulations to Cori Bush on your efforts. The other issue is down in Florida. Now you might want to listen to this and listen up real good. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, what he has done is he has proposed a piece of legislation that basically allow citizens to shoot looters, rioters who target businesses. Now, what this does is Ron DeSantis has drafted anti-mob legislation that would expand the state's stand your ground law. The move would allow armed citizens to shoot and potentially kill anyone they suspect of looting. This thing goes on to say is that now the legislation, as Ron DeSantis put it, it's an attempt to prevent violence and disorderly assemblies by permitting violence against anyone involved in interpretation or impairment of a business reportedly described in the draft as being burglary within 50 feet, violent or disorderly assembly. Now what happened here is like, look, what he's saying is, he's saying the average citizen, if they see you looting or robbing within 50 feet of a business, they have the legal ground to shoot and kill you without immunity. They won't even get charged. This is a dangerous piece of legislation. The reason I'm bringing it up because I guarantee you other states will try to copy this piece of legislation. It hadn't went into law yet. He just proposed this thing. And the other piece of this legislation, if protesters are blocking traffic, it gives a person immunity, the driver, who wants to go and run over the protesters. Gives them immunity from injuring and running over and killing protesters who are blocking traffic. I'm not making this stuff up. Y'all can look this law up. It's anti-mob law is what Ron DeSantis is calling this thing. But to me, it's justifiable homicide with a gun or either a vehicle. Now, Ron DeSantis has given this thing to the State Senate Committee, Criminal Justice Division, and he also given it to the House Judiciary Committee to look at. And I guarantee you, folks, they're going to try to push this piece of legislation through. And when they try to push this thing through, other states are going to look at this. Can you imagine that? You're protesting, you're blocking traffic, and if someone want to take their car and physically run it through the protesters, they don't care how many people they kill, how many they injured. The driver will be immune from prosecution according to this piece of legislation that Ron DeSantis has come up with. Now, I don't know how much crazier you can get than that. You know, this is crazy. So, folks, if you live in Florida, this is what you got to look forward to. You got to remember, Florida was one of the first states to come up with this stand your ground, right? They came up with that nonsense. So if you don't think these things, as crazy as it sounds, if you don't think it'll become law, think again, because it will. And we have to be on point and make sure that if anything like that happen here in the state of Ohio, or wherever state you live in, and if you're against it, then make sure your state legislators know about it. Make sure your U.S. representatives and your Congress people, make sure they know about it, that we don't want this thing. And hopefully we can deter this thing from happening, this law from coming to the state of Ohio. I think every civil rights groups in the country need to converge on Florida to show a sign of protest against Ron DeSantis and this piece of crazy legislation that allow people to justifiably kill other people. That's the only way I can say it. And you know, with that, people, I'm telling you, we have to pay attention. We voted this time. We're gonna have another election coming next year. Don't let your guard down. You know, your vote do count. If your vote didn't count, these people who come in with these voter suppression policies wouldn't even do that. Now they've seen, when I say they, I'm talking about the people who came in with this voter suppression stuff, like moving mailboxes and shutting down voting machines that count the votes and all this kind of nonsense. They're going to try again. There'll be something different, right? They're going to try something different. Whatever they try, we got to make sure that we counter that. You know what I mean? We have to make sure we counter that, because if we don't counter that, folks, you know, they're trying to take away your right to vote. And these people, they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about your religion. They don't care about none of that. The only thing they care about is remaining in power and reaping the money and the benefits from being in power while you starve on the street. You don't believe me? I'll give you a good example. We got a coronavirus floating around here, right? Coronavirus everywhere. And people refuse to wear a mask. People refuse to take safety steps to protect themselves and to protect other people. They refuse to take safety steps to protect themselves and their family. They don't even care nothing about their family. They don't care about themselves. They don't care nothing about their family, because if they did, they'd be wearing a mask. And so if they don't care nothing about their family, they don't care nothing about themselves' health, you know they ain't gonna care nothing about my health. So there's the example. They don't care, right? And to say that whatever religion you profess to be, one of the common threads is to care about other people. I don't care whether or not you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu. The common thread is care about other people. I don't care what you say you profess. I'm looking at what you do. When I see what you do, I see what you care about. Don't tell me what you are. Your actions will tell me who you are. So, with that, it's another show. I appreciate all your comments. Keep your comments coming. And if you know of a scam that I may not know anything about, just drop me a line, and I'll do a little research, and we'll see if we'll get the information out. So I always say there's never an ending. There's always a continuation. May God bless you and your family.